Hello and welcome to World News on the Hour here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Over 1,300 Iranian civilians have been killed so far, according to the country's envoy to the United Nations, as the Israeli-American war on Iran enters its second week. Israel struck several military sites in Iran overnight, as well as Tehran's biggest commercial airport, destroying a plane on the tarmac. Tehran's residents called the past night the worst since the beginning of the conflict, with a large number of massive explosions. Plumes of smoke were also seen above Lebanon's capital, Beirut, as Israeli forces attacked the Iran-allied Hezbollah paramilitary group. Iran, for its part, hit Israeli territory with Iranian missiles intercepted over Tel Aviv, triggering sirens across the city. The Iranians also struck offices and warehouses belonging to US oil firms in the Iraqi city of Basra. The only satisfactory end to the war in Iran for US President Donald Trump is Iran's, quote, unconditional surrender. But with no clear end to the strikes in sight, there is growing concern of the conflict taking Trump's attention away from the war in Ukraine.
Another day of US and Israeli strikes on Iran and Lebanon. And in the Oval Office, a moment of prayer.
Continue blessing and favor to rest upon him.
You want to see me do it again?
In stark contrast to official communication from the White House, which used a children's cartoon to celebrate successful attacks.
You want to see me do it again?
The question now is, what is the end goal for the United States? President Trump says unconditional surrender.
There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that and the selection of a great and acceptable leader, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction.
I think the president's having a heck of a say in who runs Iran, given the ongoing operation we have. So there's no expansion in our objectives. We know exactly what we're trying to achieve.
The United States and Israel have so far eliminated most of the Iranian regime's top command, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. But then again, the Ayatollahs have often been compared to the multi-headed Hydra for a reason.
But Iran is not Syria under Bashar al-Assad, a one-man show. And when you get rid of this man, everything is being solved. The Iranian regime has backing from within some sectors of the Iranian population.
The regime also enjoys the backing of its biggest ally, Russia. According to the Washington Post, Moscow has been providing Iran with intelligence where to strike US targets. Still, Russia remains mostly preoccupied with its invasion of Ukraine.
Even if Iran asked Russia for help, Russia would not be able to assist its ally because Putin is very busy in Ukraine. The world has to be reminded, especially Russian allies, that with friends like Putin, they do not need any enemy.
The two conflicts becoming increasingly intertwined by the political, military and economic consequences. The United States has asked Kyiv for help in intercepting Iranian Shahed drones, the same killing machines that have wreaked havoc in Ukraine for the past 4 years.
The U.S. has a shortage of those interceptors if this is a protracted conflict. So it's also political, of course, though, because it's callous, showing the U.S. in particular, look, Ukraine can contribute here to your military when we need you to contribute to European and Ukrainian security.
That sentiment echoed by Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Help us stop our war and we will help you. And yet European officials are concerned that Trump's already shifted his interest to the Middle East.
Yes, the worry is there that it's diverting attention away.
Or other distractions. For TVP World, Kazimierz Łysiak.
Poland has dispatched 2 Air Force planes to Saudi Arabia to evacuate Poles caught in the US-Israeli conflict in Iran. The aircraft from Poland's first transport aviation base are en route to Riyadh, the Polish Armed Forces Operational Command reported Saturday morning. Nearly 3,000 Polish citizens have already returned home via civilian and military flights. Officials warn the Middle East remains unstable, with the conflict affecting Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Qatar. The final evacuees are expected to arrive in Poland on Monday. Thousands of European citizens are stranded in the Middle East after the US and Israel attacked Iran on Saturday. Now, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has said that the EU is willing to co-finance evacuation operations from the region, allowing people from one EU member state to board evacuation flights organised by another.
The European Union is ready to co-finance our evacuation operation under the European mechanism. If other European Union citizens can find space on board our aircraft, they are welcome to it. Of course, Polish citizens are our priority, but please use this mechanism flexibly and intelligently. Anyway, our citizens will also be able to use this mechanism on other countries' planes. I am asking for a very detailed coordination here. I am discussing this with other prime ministers and presidents. Everyone is keen to make the most of every seat on every plane and for it to be coordinated on a European level.
7 people have been killed and at least 10 have been wounded in an overnight Russian ballistic missile strike on a residential building in the Ukrainian northeastern city of Kharkiv. The deadly attack destroyed a 5-story building, spurring Ukrainian emergency rescue services to the site as some people are still trapped under the rubble. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on his allies to react to the strike, adding that Russia used 29 missiles and 480 drones in its overnight attacks. Kyiv and several other cities across Ukraine have been hammered by drone and missile strikes that also targeted energy and railway infrastructure. 7 Ukrainian bank employees detained by Hungarian authorities have been released and have returned safely to Ukraine. The country's foreign minister, Andrei Sybiha, confirmed. Sybiha had earlier accused Hungary of taking the workers hostage and summoned Budapest's acting chargé d'affaires in Kyiv. The employees from Ukraine's state savings bank, Oshad Bank, were transporting approximately $82 million in cash and gold from Austria to Ukraine via Hungary when they were detained. The bank is still working to recover the 2 vehicles and their cargo, which included $40 million, 35 million euros and 9 kilograms of gold. The incident marks the latest escalation in the dispute between Budapest and Kyiv, largely tied to the flow of Russian oil into Central Europe. TVP World's news director Adam Yasser commented on the latest Ukraine-Hungary tensions, saying, quote, Zelensky is making a political mistake because he's giving fuel to Orban's campaign. His remark followed Zelensky's controversial statement about sending Ukrainian soldiers to Orban's address to speak to him in their own language, a comment that drew criticism from both the Hungarian leader and the EU.
I think Zelensky unnecessarily fell into the trap by escalating the rhetoric. He should let it go, let these 3-4 weeks pass before the election, and then try to reach some kind of an understanding with either Orban after the election or perhaps the new administration then. Again, I think the key issue here is that Orban has been playing Russia's agent in Europe for many, many years now. He's been blocking EU initiatives on funding, on defense, and lining up with all the forces that want the European Union to fail in one way or the other. So everyone in Europe, I think, is now waiting for him to go and pave the way to an administration with whom you can have normal relationship. So I think from that point of view, Zelensky is making a political mistake because he's giving fuel to Orban's campaign. Whether that is going to be enough for Orban is another matter, because the opinion polls show that he's between 15 and 20 basis points behind the opposition Tisha party.
As the conflict in the Gulf deepens, oil prices are once again soaring, sending energy markets into a frenzy. The price of Brent crude increased by more than 20% this week, a record since April 2024. With the Strait of Hormuz closed, Asian buyers such as India and China could turn to Russian crude for supplies, giving the Russian energy sector an unexpected boost. Maciej Wielowski reports.
In the span of only a week, the war in the Middle East has sent energy markets into a tailspin. The price of Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil prices, spiked nearly 30% this week to the highest level since November 2022. It was also the biggest one-week gain in 4 years since Russia's full-scale attack on Ukraine.
The energy market is currently navigating a perfect storm. Since February 28, we've witnessed massive risk premium being backed into every barrel.
In an effort to bring down prices, the U.S. on Friday offered India, a major oil importing country, a 30-day waiver on purchases of Russian crude.
The decision to grant this waiver was simply to draw down oil prices. The conflict with Iran obviously has raised energy prices with the Strait of Hormuz under threat, and this is an attempt to move the needle downwards by allowing illicit Russian oil to be offloaded to India.
As of 2024, roughly 37% of India's crude oil imports came from Russia, up from less than 1% before the latter's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But a majority share of India's crude oil and natural gas imports came from the Middle East, particularly Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Much of that fuel passed through the Strait of Hormuz, now largely cut off due to the war between the US, Israel, and Iran.
India is particularly exposed, given its roughly 45-50% reliance on Persian Gulf for crude. Every dollar increase in oil prices adds billions to India's annual import bill.
With the Strait of Hormuz largely offline, energy importers, particularly in Asia, will seek their oil elsewhere. And one country could capitalize more than others: Russia.
Hormuz crisis is a massive tailwind for the Kremlin. With Gulf supplies offline, Asian refineries, Asian buyers essentially are forced back into the Russian crude.
As a further boost to the Kremlin, the U.S. waiver on Russian crude bound for India directly undercuts Western sanctions on Russia.
This completely undermines sanctions on not just Russia, but even Iran. And it also undermines U.S. sanctions.
Ironically, the attack on Iran, a key Russian ally in the Middle East, could offer Russia the biggest boost to its energy sector and state finances in years. For TVP World, I'm Maciej Wielowski.
And that brings us to the end of this bulletin, but we will be back on the hour, so see you then. Bye now.